Welcome back to Frank's Model Aviation Workshop. This is episode 15 in the Carl Goldberg Ultimate 10-300 Biplane Build Series and part 7 of the Lost Foam Wing Experiment. I finally received my 1/4 inch balsa sheets in the mail from Specialized Balsa. We will be cutting the trailing edge caps in this episode and hopefully finishing up the wing. All I got left to do is the trailing edge caps, the center trailing edge, ailerons, hinging, beveling, and cap strips and end caps. Should be able to get that all done in this episode, hopefully. As you can see right now, I'm able to actually pick the wing up and nothing fall off of it. But everything's cut to size. I got my aileron exits, or push rod exits in. Everything's cut right, looking really nice. I still got to install that center block, and I want to put some blocks in where the hinges are going for the aileron hinges. I'm going to be using CA hinges, so should be simple to do. So anyway, we'll get set up and start finishing this wing up. Then next episode, when I start the top wing, I'm going to just fast forward through the entire thing, and then I'll show what I do for the center. Should be fairly simple. I'm going to have to rob some parts from an extra kit that I have to make this work, because the parts that I ordered not going to work. They're not the right size, so we'll have to deal with that when we comes time to build those kits. But I ain't too worried about it. I just want to get these wings done and get on to building that fuselage. So anyway, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of future episodes of this build. And also like and share my videos. I'd really appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get going. So when you order from Specialized Balsa, they really pack this stuff really nice. It is really packed good. Not only do they wrap it in thick cardboard, but they also box it in double thick cardboard. So it comes to you damage free. And I'm going to get one of these out. We're going to cut some end caps. This is sea grain 5 to 7 pound stock. So I'll use this one. But the first thing I'm going to do is true up an edge. Always start off with a fresh blade whenever you're cutting balsa. Okay. So now I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to true it up with my permagrit. Okay, so this is going to be the edge I'm going to use. Okay, you basically just got to measure the width of your trailing edge and add 1/8 of an inch. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's measure. It's 9/16, so I'll add 1/8 to that. Always measure twice, cut once. So now I'll turn this around and we'll might as well go ahead and cut it. Pretty sure I can cut it straight enough. I need to make 2 though. So after I get this cut, I will true up the edge of the next one and then we will cut another one. These trailing edge caps will be planed down to the wing trailing edge sheeting, so that's why I made them 1/8 of an inch wider. What once was a straight piece of wood is now crooked. That's all right. I'll true up this edge now. Let's see how that's going to fit. Yeah, that'll work. Nine 16th plus 1/8. S-shaped. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand, it's Bluetooth accessories like these mics and stuff. So there's a couple clips that I did of gluing this trailing edge cap on that are going to be silent. Basically, I spread thinned aliphatic resin or Tite Bond onto the cap, excuse me, and weighted it and let it set overnight. I'll film the other side, but kind of makes me upset because you're talking during the whole thing and discussing how you're doing it, and now it's gone, so I'll have to redo it on this side. So anyway, we'll get set up and do that one. So first things first, I'm going to move all this stuff down here. So I need to get my tape. The left side turned out pretty good. Hope the right side turns out just as good. So I need to figure out where I want to put my tape. I don't know if you caught it earlier, but the reason I'm doing this tape is to keep my weights from sliding, so it'll hold the position better. That way these things won't slide as much, but on this they slide a lot. So anyway, I'll get set up here. Get my weights positioned, or my whatever you want to call these things, to press on the trailing edge cap. Okay. So now I'll just shake up my glue here. Make sure I got the right angle. We're going to put the glue on this side. Don't forget my paper towel. I'm going to try wetting this side a little bit. Okay. I want to totally saturate that wood to make sure that the glue doesn't dry before I get it on there. So I want to make sure the glue is wet. Okay, now we'll start putting the uprights on. That's what I'll call them. I want to make sure they're square to that so that my weights that are holding these things won't put dings in my trailing edge. Alright, looks like I got a good bond there. It's flat against the trailing edge, and I got a good seam here, so I'll take you off the tripod and bring you around and show you. Gotta make sure I keep that clear, otherwise it'll clog up and it's hard to get it unclogged. This is my basic setup, I guess. Hard to get this thing to focus because you got so many levels here that the camera wants to focus on, but I'm trying to get that. Anyway, you get the idea. Caps are on the back side. Now, once that cures, I'll take all the weights off, take the foam cradle, and we will use my new microplane to plane that trailing edge to the trailing edge sheeting. After that's done, I'm going to start installing shear webs in the trailing edge. But before that, I need to put the blocks in for my CA hinges. on the plans it shows some hinges that are going to be like in a rib location. I'll just move them over left or right, whatever, so that I don't have to deal with that. But anyway, this is where we're at right now. When that cures, we'll continue. Okay, we're cured good enough. Now we will remove the clamps, take these cradle tops off, and we will start to plane down the trailing edge using my nice new handmade planer I got. This thing is a work of art. Well, there it is. Oh, careful. About broke my rib. Yeah, it looks like she's glued good. Got a good joint on it. Now we will start the planing process. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes right in this area. I think what I'm going to do first is cut this end off. Leaving a little bit because I want to sand it flush. Normally I'd save that scrap, but it had glue smeared all over one side and I didn't want to have to deal with that, so I'm not saving that one. Now I'm ready to make a bunch of mess. Oh, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Let's see what happens now. Alright, that's enough in regular speed. I'll switch to slow speed or fast speed. Well, there we have one completed trailing edge cap on the Ultimate Biplane Lost Foam wing. Next step, we're going to plot out where we want to put those hinge blocks. Probably put one here, maybe one here, and one here. Here, here, and here. That way it'll be fairly where it's supposed to be. they show the hinge on the aileron about right here, but I'm going to move it over. Ain't going to hurt nothing. But that looks pretty darn good so far. Wing is straight. And it's looking good. Happy with the way it's looking. We are going to continue with the hinge blocks, so I'm going to cut 6. Got to find some wood first. Pretty sure I have some. This is why I never throw away scrap. I had this in the bottom of my balsa wood bin. It's 1/2 inch thick by I think 4 inch. That's that piece was probably pretty expensive when it was whole. So I don't need 1/2 inch inside there. I think it's more like 7/16. So I'm going to set my table saw up. Try to get that perfect angle so it just sits right down in there perfectly. I don't know. We'll see. Probably not going to film that. Okay, I got my aileron blocks done, and I chamfered them. You can see. And they fit in there just perfectly. So I'm going to medium CA these things in. Then after all these are glued in, I got 6 of them. After all those are glued in, we will go ahead and do the shear webs on the trailing edge. I'm probably only going to do shear webs. Well, I could probably do them here too. From here to here. Well, from here to there. On both sides. And after the shear webs are done, cap strips. We'll do the cap strips, end caps, center trailing edge, ailerons, hinging and beveling. When we'll glue those in permanently, after I install the servos, glue these on permanently, run my servo leads through that hole, and voila, the lower wing will be done except for the Z-bend push rod. I'll do that after it's monocoated. These will be painted. So let's get going. Let's get this thing done because I got one more wing to build. And I know there's people out there, and you know who you are, that can't wait to see that fuselage built. So that's what I want to do after these wings are done. Okay, so we will start to glue these in, and I'm going to try to glue this in and not, let's see, let's test fit. That's definitely a perfect fit in there. I'm going to take it back out. Once they're in, they ain't coming out, so I'm going to try to CA all around this thing. All right. That one's in. Try not to glue myself to the block. And I got glue on my dang foam. It's not foam safe CA, so I gotta get that off of there. Of course, I have polyurethane on there, so that'll save it a little. Alright, so that's in. And I'm going to mark my hinge location on the other side. I'm going to remove this, make it easier to get this in here. I think what I'll do, I'll just put CA on the front, and then I'll wick CA in down the sides. I want to make sure I get it in the right spot. Okay, that's that. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to measure for some shear webs. Looking pretty sweet. I went ahead and used my Goldberg centering tool and put my centering marks for my hinges. Now I'm thinking about, before I put these trailing edges on, to go ahead and slot this, because it's pretty difficult to get your knife in there, you know, when the trailing edge is there. So I might slot these before I do that. But before I even do that, I want to go ahead and put these shear webs in. I got to set my stripper to 10 millimeter or 15 millimeters, and we'll strip them down and go cross grain, of course, and then we'll have to adjust them to the width, which is no big deal. We'll get them set in there, and I'm gonna tack them in with some thin CA while the wing's in here weighted like this. That way, whenever, see, there's absolutely zero flex to that. So after these are tacked in, I can lift it out carefully and glue them the rest of the way with thin CA, and that will be a rock solid wing. Then, after we get these shear webs in, we'll go ahead and do the cap strips, the center sheeting, mount the servos, and put that servo exit piece in there in the caps. And then we'll be on to doing the trailing edge and ailerons. So let's get going. Okay, I'm going to start by setting this thing to 10 millimeters. No, 15. What am I saying? I'll cut one and cut it to size and test it and see what we got. It's going to be a little bit harder to balsa strip this sideways, I have a feeling. Yeah, I want to chop out. I might just have to measure it. I'm just going to test fit this over here real quick. Fits just like the Bob Hunt video. Oh, looks good. I think I'm just going to leave it in there. So let's do another one. Yeah, I don't like the way that cuts. I'll try a couple more. I might have to change the blade in the stripper. Yeah, look how it frays that back end. Don't like it. As I cut them, I'm going to fit them. And then I'll bring you around and show you what it looks like. That really looks nice. Alright, I'll take you off the tripod and show you. So this is what it looks like without the shear webs. And this is what it looks like with the shear webs. Okay, I slid some wax paper in here and I went ahead and I glued the top. And I'm going to do the same to the other side. I'll put all the shear webs in and glue just the top. And then I'm going to flip the wing over and glue the bottom. It should be good enough. Pretty sure it will be. The reason being is I don't want to put this thin CA on that bottom side and have it wick under my trailing edge sheeting. That would really make me upset. So, you know, because it's nice and smooth, sanded perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead on the other side, make my shear webs and get them glued to the top, and we will flip this over. But man, this is turning out awesome. I'm loving it. Okay, so got all my shear webs in. They're all glued in. Got my blocks in for my ailerons. Cap strips for both sides, 2 servos, the lead outs, and 2 ailerons, which are a foot longer than they need to be. And I'm at 9.9 ounces. So that is 280 grams right now. That's where I'm at right now. So we are going to set up and do the cap strips, and we have to do the caps on the ends of the wing and install all the servos and wires, and we'll do the trailing edges and ailerons. We'll see what this thing weighs. I bet you I'm under 10 ounces, which is not bad for a dual aileron lower wing. Top wing is going to be even lighter. It's going to be 203 ounces, or 203 grams, 7.42 ounces. So we'll get set up, do these cap strips, cap off the wing tips, and do the trailing edges. Okay, now's the time we start doing these cap strips. So I'm going to start with the wingtip. I'm thinking they got me some of these nice straight edge razor blades. Might as well try to use those. Start by cutting one. You know what? I may have screwed myself. I did. Dang it. Alright, so I miscalculated. So I'm going to have to, how am I going to do this? I thought I was going to get 2 cap strips out of each one of these. And that ain't happening, so I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do here. Try to do this with 0 waste. Might be able to do it if I do it that way. I'll try. Never hurts to try. I'm going to do a couple, and then I'll go in fast speed. Technically, I use regular CA for this, but I was trying to get those end ones with just thin CA. Probably should have used regular CA. Probably not the best thing to use as a sandbar. No way this thing's flat. Okay, there's 3. I'm going to go ahead and continue on in fast speed. Okay, so this is basically what the wing is going to look like, minus the trailing edge and ailerons. Got all the cap strips on the top. I'm going to flip it over and do the bottom. And then we'll be ready to do the trailing edges. Or no, I want to cap the ends first. What in the flying? What are you gonna do? Set that aside. Move on. I'm only replacing that half, so let's do this. Let's take this thing. Well, not only did I lose R6, the bottom half of it, when I was doing my cap strips, but I filmed that entire thing in slow motion. So, I don't know, I might just leave it out. So anyway, the way I'm going to fix R6, generate a new rib. Make the lightning holes, make it just like I did in the beginning. Then I'm going to cut from the spar to the trailing edge, cut that rib in half, glue it in there, and put another cap strip on. That's my only other alternative. Yeah. Anyway, let me get set up and get that done. So unfortunately, my battery died in my phone. I didn't get a chance to show everybody my repair. This is the new cap strip and new half rib that I had to put on there. So it's fixed. All is well at Frank's Model Aviation Workshop. So now, next step, we are going to cap these wing tips and do my trailing edges. So we'll get set up and do that. Okay, so I'm going to use 1/8 inch balsa on these wing tips. Kit uses 1/16, but I just like the look of the 1/8 inch. So I'm going to cut these fairly big and then I'll sand them to shape. Or sand them to their desired contour on the plane. This is fairly light wood too, for being 1/8 inch. test fit. Make sure they're good enough. Yep, that'll work. So add the glue to the tip and then put the 1/8 inch on there. Looks pretty good. I'll do the other side as well before I sand them. Okay, we got a good glue joint. Now set up the sand. Looks wonderful. Now you might be able to see there's a little bit of deviation here. I got a little overzealous with the sandpaper when I was sanding that cap strip. So I'm going to have to put a little filler in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to do my thin CA trick on this tip. Because, I don't know about y'all, but I like a nice sharp edge on my wingtips, on my ultimates. Burning the eyes. That's nice and crisp. That's going to be beautiful when it gets covered. Okay. Now we'll get after that with the thin CA again. Alright, that finishes up that tip. Okay, now we'll get ready to cut the trailing edges. Okay, so this is my aileron stock I'll be using. I got this from Specialized Balsa as well. It weighs practically nothing. C-grain balsa. I had to wait a long time to get this stuff too, because it's not something they usually make. They don't usually make ailerons out of C-grain. So I'm going to get my saw here, and a pen, and I'm going to make sure that I want to make this the whole left side, the left aileron, left trailing edge, right aileron, right trailing edge. And as I cut them, I'm going to label them so that I know that those two pieces go together. That way when this is mounted and the aileron's beveled, the trailing edge is going to match the whole way. So let's go ahead and mark this to cut. Looks good. So what I like to do is take my permagrit, and I'll take this other trailing edge and I'll put it underneath this one to make that square, and I'll sand that square to where it's perfectly gonna match to the other one. Alright, that's that one. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this one over here. So these should go together perfectly when they're on the plane, of course. Alright, so now we'll measure for the other part of the trailing edge. And this will form the trailing edge and the aileron. So now I'm going to write on the inside here, T inside left, T inside right. That way I know what I'm sanding. This will be, I'll have to wait till after I sand it, but I'll mark that left aileron and right aileron. Okay, so I've got it basically trimmed up where I need it to be. But remember what I said earlier, I want to slot at least these two inside hinge slots. I'm going to do that real quick and then we'll glue these on. Okay, so I had to do a little bit of tweaking because when I put these trailing edges up to my wing, it didn't look like a symmetrical airfoil. It looked like they were like canted up a little. I mean, it's very slight. So I did a little checking. I drew a line on the table and I put my 90-degree on there and it lined up, or it was off. So I sanded the mating surface just enough to get it to be 90 degrees from the table. Now when I put it onto the plane, it looks straight. So now we'll go ahead and glue these on. Okay, so I'm going to glue this surface and that surface, and then I'll thin CA the trailing edge, or where it joins. So we'll test fit here. Looks good. And now we'll apply some CA. Now carefully, I say carefully, Yeah, that looks a lot better than what it did. Now that should butt right up against it. Oh yeah. Perfectly. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this other one on now. Don't glue yourself to your plane. It looks way better. Man, it's starting to look like an ultimate biplane wing now. Alright, I'm just going to run a little thin CA down in here. That'll be enough to hold that together. Okay, so I think now I'm going to cut for my aileron length, rough cut, because I'm going to tape these. I'm going to hinge them and tape them in position with the correct gap that I want before I sand it to the exact size. So I'm going to basically take the wing off this thing. Be careful where you set it. You don't want a hanger rash. So I want roughly a 32nd. I like a tight gap. So a 32nd will be good. And then I'll take my pen and my clear ruler. And I'm going to leave roughly an 1/8 past it. And I'll cut that off. That'll get me dang close where I want to be. All right, that's that. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, both sides are cut, rough cut. So I'm going to take the centering gauge. I'll do both of them while I'm here. So now I'm going to mark my hinge locations. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hinge these up, or slot them and hinge them off camera. I've already did that with the other wings in the kit, so I'll get that done, and once I get that done and my gap space and the aileron is taped in position, I'll bring you back and we'll sand the tips. Probably could do that off camera too. Showed that too. But basically, I'm going to sand the tips, get my gaps, sand the tips, and then take the ailerons off, bevel them, and then harden both edges on the ailerons with thin CA. That's basically all there is to the ailerons. So, okay, there is 2 hinged ailerons with a 30-second gap. Next step is to sand these flush with the tips. After that, we're going to install the ailerons, get our lead outs in there, or servo wire extensions, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to get them curled up in here with a string, and we're going to permanently glue that piece in, and we'll permanently glue the push rod exits in. Also, I need to come up with aileron push rods. So I think I have some somewhere. I got a stash of all kinds of crap. So we are nearing completion of a Lost Foam Ultimate Biplane wing. That thing looks sweet. Okay, for those interested, this is the completed Lost Foam lower Ultimate Biplane wing. 2 servos, the extension, the bass block that I still have to glue in yet. Add a couple grams for some epoxy, but everything's there. The push rod, I put a long push rod in. I'm only going to need split that in half. So here it is, 287 grams, 10.10 ounces. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all for what it is. Plus, it's a lot straighter, I guarantee, than the kit wing. I mean, the kit wing's straight, but this is built inside of a foam cradle that's was formed. All the ribs were formed from the core, the wing core. So it turned out really nice. I really am happy with that. And I went ahead and I beveled and did all that, hardened the edges off camera, because I already went through that with the kit wing, so I didn't want to put you guys through that. So until I do the little bit of filler that's needed and install the ailerons servos, I need to get some more of these. I over drilled them and I got too much play in my push rod, so I'm going with a small clevis on these, hence the small clevis sitting there. So that's it for the lower wing. I'm done with that until I can install the servos. What I'm going to do is build the top wing in fast speed, and that's it. When I get to the center section where there's something to do, we'll show you. Really, I mean, there's nothing to show you. You know what's in the center. I did it in the kit wing, so I might just build the whole entire wing in fast speed. That way, at least it's documented that I built it Lost Foam style. This thing, this planer, made easy work of those ailerons. It uses single edge razor blades, but that is one of the best planers I've ever used. If you want to know more about that, you can message me or whatever, and I'll tell you about it. So I forgot about filming the insertion of this basswood block. So I'm going to do that on camera. Now, because it's going inside the fuselage, it really doesn't matter about the neatness of of what I'm doing here, but I'm going to try to make it as neat as possible. So 3 inches wide. Try not to blow through that leading edge sheeting, because that would really make my day. There it is. I just cut my sheeting. Okay. So I'm going to come around here. And do another 3-inch cut. Right. It's like performing plastic surgery. So now I'm going to carefully cut a window in here. Well, I'm right-handed, but I'll try to do this like this. There's the window. This block will epoxy in right there. And then we will glue that window back in. Now the way I'm going to glue that window back in is with some 1/16 glued underneath these edges to give me a little backer. Let's see. Don't need it there. So I'm going to make little 1/16 inch pieces. I'll be right back. And I'm going to attempt, well, maybe I should use regular CA. I'm going to glue this in. Okay, so now I got these little pieces, and I'm going to attempt to glue. Not sure how I'm going to do this. We'll just do it. We'll just wing it. Good enough. This is just to give that piece that I cut off something to stick to. Probably should have put them in cross grain, now that I think about it. But it'll be alright. Wrong glue. Got messed up. Okay, I'm going to mix up some epoxy. And yes, I robbed a kit. Of that bass block. I'm also going to take the 1/16 eyelets and the tube because I need it for the top wing. Now I'm going to glue that patch back in. run some thin CA in there. And that'll set and it'll be good. So that'll end the bottom wing. Done with it. Well, that'll about do it for this episode. Bottom wing lost foam method is finished. I'll have to install this aileron servos, and I'm not going to glue the center sheeting or the aileron exit, pushrod exits in until I get those servos mounted. Had to order some new horns for it because I over drilled the horns for my clevis. Basically, I was going to do the Z bend on the horn and the clevis on the aileron control horn, but I decided against it because the movement of the servo would take that Z bend and just eat that hole alive, that oval hole. So I decided to go the opposite way. We'll clevis the aileron servo and Z bend the horn on the aileron. So that about does it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the content. I really enjoyed doing it, and I know the top wing is going to be even better because I have my first experience with doing lost foam. Really like the way it builds. It's real easy. A lot of labor in making parts, but once those are done, it goes right together. If I wasn't filming, I could have one together in probably a day. But anyway, I think what I'm going to do, since I've already been through 3 wings, I'm just going to go ahead and build the top wing. Then I'll show you it before we start the fuselage build. That way, you see that I got 4 wings complete. Not like it means anything, but I want to. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about just using these lost foam wings on the Ultimate, and just keep those other ones as spares, or maybe sell them if anybody needs a set of wings, because I don't think I'll use them. Since I got this lost foam cradle, I could reproduce Ultimate biplane wings over and over again. So anyway, we're done with the lower wing. Like I said, next episode we're going to start the fuselage, and I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait to get this plane done because I have another warbird I'm going to be building after this build series. That's going to be exciting. So anyway, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of future episodes of this build series and future build series. And be sure and like and share my videos. I'd really appreciate that. And if you have any comments or anything, feel free to comment on it. Gripes, complaints, whatever. I always read my comments, and I try to reply as soon as I see them. So we'll comment if you have something to say. So anyway, until next episode, thanks for watching.